And Liam is here.
Thanks, Liam. And Nancy, school bus contracts?
That was
Lori had.
That was me.
Okay,
This is probably way sooner than is needed, but I just remember when we first signed these contracts soon after I started, how I was sad it was a 5-year contract because I was hoping to work on getting seeing what we could do for electric school buses.
Oh.
And so it seemed like now we still have 3 years left in the contract. Maybe there's just the right amount of time to see what we can do for the next contract to work with, I can't remember how you pronounce the name, Kuzmeskis.
travel Kuzmeskis.
Yeah, to work with them and the other towns. I think we do this with several other towns. We do this, a joint contract.
Yeah,
To do what we can to encourage them or find grant money for them to try to get some electric buses. So and Greenfield, I think, is one of our partners. So I've already talked about this with my boss there, and she's interested as well. So I just wanted to bring it up here to see if people are interested in it and if you're okay with me starting to do sort of some legwork. And I'll talk to the Energy Committee also to just see what could happen, if anything can happen in the next 3 years.
sounds good to me. It sounds like a great idea.
Do you know if they've gotten any?
I feel like we would have known because it's such a big deal. And I know there was the VW grant program that happened a year or so ago. I think electric buses were part of that. I don't know. Do you remember VW and the whole scandal? And then they had to pay money, and it turned into this grant program that states administered to increase electric transportation. So I think school buses were part of that. They were funding school buses, but I don't think it was clear for towns like ours who we don't own our school buses. You know, how does that happen? But I think they're starting to work that out and finding ways for the town to maybe apply for the grant and help the private bus company use the money to upgrade their buses. So I think people are definitely working on it to figure out how, and there's going to be another round. I actually don't know for sure when there's going to be another round of VW grant money, but hopefully in the next 3 years. And I think there's other grant money out there too. So I'll start finding out.
And
Okay, thanks, Lori.
the other thing is maybe even I know it's maybe doesn't feel quite as close, but Mahar uses Swift River Bus Company.
Oh, okay.
So
I don't think I knew that.
keep that in the loop as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be a lot more buses. And the buses are pretty polluting characters, actually.
Yes, and I mean, I've always thought that we have so few students on the buses that we don't need the big buses.
That's true too.
I mean, that's a whole nother issue, I think. I mean, maybe it can all happen at the same time. You know, if they need to get a new bus, maybe they'll think, well, do we really need the full-size bus?
Right. Okay, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
Okay, the next item on there, I think Gillian, you had brought up this IT grant.
Right. And I didn't do my homework, but it seemed like, see if I can pull it up real quick. There is an opportunity to apply for a grant to help with the process of making a plan so that when the grant comes around, and I know we're already doing some of that work, but I was wondering if it might be helpful to take another look at that and see if it could be more helpful, and pay for some for a report to get done. just to make the process of applying for that other grant a little easier.
Okay.
I think
Um,
it's a good idea.
And Nancy, do you know anything more about that grant in particular?
No, I haven't had even a chance to look at the paperwork, Gillian.
Okay.
Do you know who it was through?
No.
I looked at it briefly. It almost seemed like it's related to the other community compact grant that we were looking at
Right.
for the IT upgrades.
Um, yeah, it's through the best practices program.
Yeah, that's a community compact grant.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if we got like a planning grant, if that would make us ineligible for the next grant, which would maybe have money to implement some of these things, or maybe we want
Right.
to do it, you know, in successive years.
And you will see the best practices program opens on January 15th and remains open until all funds are exhausted. I can make a commitment to look at this a little bit more closely to see where things are at before our next meeting.
I'm pretty sure the grant that we got for the police succession study was one of these best practices one, and the grant application itself, as I recall, was pretty short.
Mm-hmm.
But my only question again would be, if we get a planning grant, what does that do to any future applications for community compact?
Okay, and you would know more about that, I'm assuming, than.
I would have to check. I don't know.
Okay.
I would say if you're looking into it, Gillian, you could call the person who reached out
Yes.
with questions. if
Okay.
that's something you're interested in.
Yep, I can go ahead and do that. And yes, I will do that. I will
Great.
print it now and take it on.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Lori, when we were looking for items for the agenda, you had mentioned a newsletter. There probably should be one that's going out at the end of March.
Oh, that's farther away than I thought.
Because I think we did one in December, so it's every 3 months.
Okay.
But I mean,
Well-
it's not that far away. We need to start reaching out to people to put things in. And I do want to mention that Joy sometimes drops the newsletter off to be printed, and the last time she picked it up for us, and apparently the owner of Adams Direct Mail really had a fit that we were using too light a weight paper. Now, we've been doing this for 18 years, as far as I know, with the same paper, but he's indicated that he's not going to do it anymore unless we use a heavier weight paper, which I can do. I'll have to buy it. And just letting you know, it will be more expensive because apparently the lightweight papers jam up his machine.
Oh,
So,
okay. Okay.
I don't know, but Joy said he got really mad at her and she felt kind of bad about it, but I said, well, we'll resolve it. But I will send out a notice, and if anybody has anything, start sending them to me. And we'll get it to our
Yeah, the
person
only-
that compiled.
I had thought another notice, I don't know if we did this last year, about the mud season. Is there any reason, do we have any way of predicting if it's going to be worse this year because of all the snow? Does that make sense? Or I guess we can
It's
ask.
bad every year.
Well, it was actually not bad last year. That's the thing. But I can reach out to Phil. I was just rereading what he put in the last one, and it was really good about plowing. So I'll let him know that with the timing of that a mud one might be good, and if maybe he'll know if he can predict if it's going to be a good or a bad year. But the timing seems good, right? End of March for.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we should probably have an update on the police situation, and I'll write you something on that, Nancy.
Okay. Okay, and Lori, I think you reminded me, in years past, we've decided to try and set the date for the annual town meeting as early as possible and sort of put it in stone so that people know when it's going to be. And that, you know, of course, with COVID becomes difficult. Last year it was on a Saturday. If we have to have it outside again, I'm guessing a Saturday would again be the day we were looking for. The FinCom usually wants it in June. So I'm going to send them an email to see if they have any preference. But I'm thinking a Saturday in June. If anybody has any dates that they aren't happy with, just get back to me. And I think maybe at the next meeting, we'll set the actual date and try to hold to it.
That sounds good to me. I think maybe the 12th would be a good day for that, which is a Saturday. Better for the FinCom because it's a little later, and yet it's early enough so most people aren't going away. That would be my hunch.
Okay, and it's also early enough that if we have any problems, we still have a couple of weeks before we have to have our financial situation closed. Okay. Okay, the next one isn't really a discussion item, it's just an announcement that Lori had made that she is now a new member of the MMA Energy and Environmental Policy Committee. So, yay, Lori.
Congratulations.
I don't think it's that big a deal, but
Sounds good.
it's interesting to understand the sort of the state, the way it runs in the state, in the Congress there. And I did want to just, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to ask, sort of officially, I'm just a municipal member of this committee, and I bring my position and my expertise, but I'm not like representing anybody in the sense that I should check in with you, and because we do vote to endorse certain legislation and or public comment or things like that. So that's how they explained it to me. But if you guys have, if you have any other, if you would like me to either report on what's happening or check in with you guys on any of the legislation or things that are coming up, then let me know and we can work something out.
Okay, thanks for doing it, Lori. That's great.
The next one on here, somebody had suggested that we should send a thank you letter to Gretchen Smith. We did kind of neglect that when she left. If that interests you, I will try to work something up for you to sign.
That sounds good. I appreciate it.
Yes, great.
Okay. And then we got our quarterly report from the Regional Housing and Redevelopment Authority about the CDBG money that we're using for housing upgrades. So it said the grant calls for completion of 18 units. They have contracted with 19 units so far, completed 10 of them, 9 currently in the construction progress. So I think that obviously that money was well needed. They completed, this is between Wendell and Shutesbury. Wendell has completed 8 units. They have 5 under construction and 1 in the bidding stage for a total of 14 units. So I'm hopeful that when this money is gone, perhaps there'll be another round of grant money. But they did indicate that no money has been paid back at this point for the most recent quarter, because I think they take that money and then they repurpose it for other rehab loans.
Nancy, so Greenfield does this and they do it every year, and they don't have to spend their previous year's grant before they get the next year's grant. I don't know if, I don't know, because we're doing it through the housing authority, if they have other rules about how often they'll apply. But do you,
I think it's because we're small.
Yeah.
And probably per capita somewhat wealthier than Greenfield. There's a lot of parameters, but I know that we're not eligible to apply for this every year.
okay,
Okay. Then I'm going to be filling out budget sheets coming up in the next week or so. I've been working on, you know, just the day-to-day stuff, but if you have any specific requests for the budget, if you could let me know, and we'll try to get some pricing and make sure that it gets in the requests to the FinCom. You know, I'm not looking for them tonight, but if you could think about it, and we just don't want to forget anything moving forward.
Okay, thanks.
Is the best way to do that to sort of look over our current budget and just to have a sense of,
What might go
Well,
up?
these may be things that we haven't currently budgeted that we might want to think about. I mean, I know at one point we were talking about painting the outside of the town hall, but last year it was determined we really didn't have the money to do that. And it, you know, depending on what the budget looks like, we might have a list of things we want to do, and the FinCom may come back and say, we don't have the money to do it again. But it's just, at least to put it on their radar so that it, you know, it doesn't get forgotten. If enough people know we want to do it, then at some point it might get done.
right? It makes me think about creating a capital improvement plan. We sort of had maybe we could talk to Jim and Alistair about that.
I did talk to Alistair. I can't remember if I told you about that. He didn't want, that wasn't something he wanted to take on. He doesn't, you know, he's not, that's not his forte. Jim, I bet, has it in his head, if not somewhere written down.
Right.
So I think it might be, I don't mind checking in with him, but it might also just be something for either the coordinator or the select board to do in a more formal way than we've been doing, I guess.
Yeah.
But
It's
yeah,
just not history that I have, so I don't even have any sense of.
I know. I was just trying to remember just things like all the different equipment in the buildings and mostly for energy, and looking into funding for or looking for projects for grants. You know, when do we know that certain equipment is going to need to be replaced?
Right.
So.
Right, or even a suggestion of what buildings need what kind of treatment, either painting or staining or washing or whatever, every 3 years or.
Well, we can definitely put the town hall back on the list. Still needs a paint job. And so does the town office building need some help. Maybe that's.
Well, I did check with Eric, our custodian, about the painting that needs to be done at the town office, because it's not the whole building, it's really the bottom part that the water splashes on, and he said he was willing to do that in the spring.
Oh, okay, great. Good. Yeah, that's the worst part. The skylights also need some attention, but it's a bigger job going up on the roof.
Yeah.
But I would put it on the list.
And that area in the copy room.
Oh, the ceiling?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that Jim has been talking about changing the glycol out in the town office and the library heating system. Although, Laura, you would know this, the library heating system, are they using the current system, or is it just sort of a backup to the new system they put in?
I would have to check. I can't remember that big, you know, the big open space. I don't know if that's being heated. Actually, maybe it is a centralized system. I'd have to double check. but you're right.
Okay.
I think our goal was that it would be a backup. I think I put that in.
So I
the
don't know if that
report.
makes any difference to Jim and, you know, in terms of changing the glycol, if it maybe even doesn't make any difference. It might be something that has to be done on a timely basis rather than usage.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So our big book of town bylaws, Joy is going to try and make copies for people, but Dan, you talked about digitizing it, and I guess I'm not sure are you talking about, like having somebody retype them so that they would become searchable?
No, not so much. I was talking about just scanning them. I'm not sure how many pages
Okay.
there are, but
It's quite large. And Joy and I were talking, and, you know, we're familiar with it because we looked at it from time to time, but it's really not user-friendly. I mean, we can certainly digitize it and put it out there for people, but if you wanted to do a search, it has only a very rudimentary index. I'll send it along to you hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and you can take a look at it and see if you think digitizing it would be worthwhile.
how many pages is it, roughly?
She has it at home because she's been trying to organize it. I would say, I don't know, 100,
Oh,
maybe, you know, it's a pretty thick book.
wow. Well, you know, especially if it's only one book. I mean, then we only have one copy of it at the moment.
I guess we have two. She did say she made another copy.
Oh. Okay, well, I don't know what the rest of the board thinks, but I think it might be worth scanning that. I mean, it's only a couple, maybe an hour's work or so to scan it.
Well, and there's some copiers that we can, you put it in and it just automatically scans the whole thing.
Well, this is like a book,
Yeah.
is the problem.
Oh, it's bound?
Yeah,
Well,
Gotcha.
it's in a 3-ring binder, so she'll have to take them all out to copy them and then scan them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be done. It's, you know.
yeah. I think it's worth
Not-
doing in somebody's leisure time when there's nothing better to do, but I don't know what the board thinks.
I think it's probably good. I'm just curious how much of it originated in a digital format that you can retrieve in another way, or is it, I don't know where it all came from, but
It came from her looking at old town reports going back, you know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and then
Yeah.
copying the page from the town reports. So
Yeah.
none of it is electronic, other than if it was very new, we could probably find it in another format. But in this book, it just is a copy of the town meeting vote.
We need a volunteer who loves to type.
yeah,
Well, we
or
actually
knows how
had
to
one
use
that was going to do
Adobe.
that, but she backed off.
Hmm.
I mean, there might be a way to scan and make different files and put things together. I don't know, in Adobe or something. Oh, Robert might have an idea.
There are some machines that can take scan text and then convert it to actual characters rather than simply make a photographic copy. There's some computer programs that can do that. They actually can analyze the text and basically convert it from, you know, picture to actual digital text.
But yeah, but we just have to start with a scanned copy though, right? To do that?
Well, it's part of the scanning process on some kinds of scanners. I mean, some scanning software can do that while it's scanning it, or as part of the process.
Well, I don't think we have that software. Do you know where we could get it?
I don't know for sure, but I mean, there's software out there that does that. And it may even be something you can download, run on some kind of machine. And there may even be copy machines that do that also, have it built into them. because there are ways, because people do that. I mean, Google does it, has done it for like a lot of books. So there is a mechanism for doing that.
Well, I guess I would be willing to look into the possible software and mechanisms, but I also think it might be worth just scanning it and having, it just seems to me it's a very valuable resource, and it might be good to have it preserved and circulated amongst stuff.
That too. What I'm saying is that scanning it to text is something that should be considered at some point.
Sure.
That way it could be, like Nancy said, it can become searchable. It can be put in a form that you can actually do something with, other than just look at it.
Yeah.
Search it or whatever.
Okay.
I imagine Adobe Acrobat or some version of that would be something where to start, both because we'd have to decide if we're going to scan it and have one page be a file or the whole thing be one file. And if you have certain software, you can break that up and make different files, move the pages around, which would make it, even if we couldn't do the text thing, it would be easier to organize it that way. So I can look into it too a little bit, Dan, if
Okay.
Well, maybe after you see the copied book, it will make more sense to you.
And is there a plan going forward, Nancy, to I don't know, for anything new to file it in a certain way?
Well, Joy has been trying to keep up with the new things. I would have to check with her to see if she's completely up to date at this point.
Okay.
Okay. So the next thing on here, I had a long conversation with Crocker Communications because I wanted them to, now that we have broadband in all the remaining town buildings, I wanted them to discontinue our $670 a month bill. And I'm thinking, well, we still have the voice over internet in this building. So what they are going to do is take off of our bill all the broadband capabilities except for the voice over internet. In the highway department, I think that we can just get Whip City up there and put in the UMA phones that they need. I would say that the library could do that pretty quickly, but I'm not sure that they still may need a fax line, and I don't know how that works over internet. But when it comes to the town office, the guy from Crocker did explain that UMA is really designed for household use, for a single line, and that what we have in the office is multiple lines. They have this auto attendant. They have a setup so that if we have a problem, we can go through them. And if we stayed with Crocker for that phone service, I believe it's around $60 a month, which for the number of lines we have here, I think is reasonable.
Yeah.
And maybe we should stay with that, with the system that we have in the town office building.
That sounds good to me.
Yes, so especially since Verizon was going to charge me over $70 a month for a home phone line.
Yeah.
So that seems like a great deal.
Yeah.
And I think the library, I think the UMA is supposed to be able to do fax. You can't do both fax and phoning at the same time. I think it should work similarly at the library as to how they've always done it.
But with UMA, you can have multiple lines. Like you can have a separate phone line number.
You can, but you can't use them both at the same time, I don't think.
Okay.
Is what
I think they run through that same UMA box. They might have two plugins for different lines, but it still has just the one box.
And do you have a fax that works at the town offices?
We do have a fax, and that's still Verizon. That would be the one Verizon line we would have to have, and the town clerk is very adamant that she needs to have this fax. Now that might be able to go to UMA for the fax line.
Yeah, I think it could, but we might want to check with Anna. Have you asked Anna? I know Gretchen
No, I
was
haven't.
adamant. I don't know if Anna has had time to think it, to understand it all yet, to
Yeah,
ask her.
she may not even know what they need it for. I think it's, some state things that the state requires us to have it, birth certificates, death certificates, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
Sounds like it might be a good idea to hold on to that for a while also.
Yeah. Okay, and the only other thing I have under old business
Oh,
is
can
that,
we, sorry, Nancy, Robert had, so along the lines of the building's internet, Robert had wanted to bring up a topic that I thought we could sneak in here. I think he sent an email to everybody, but did you want to talk about that, Robert?
Yeah. I wanted to have static IP addresses, at least for the library and probably for the town offices. That would allow me remote access to the server that's now at the library, and the server will probably eventually have at the town office building. I think setting IP address means that I could be able to access those machines from remotely rather than having to actually go to the buildings to work on them if I needed to. That's the other thing, is that for some of the other buildings that aren't occupied much, having a static IP address for those means that somebody can work on the routers if they needed to, remotely if necessary. That's mainly what I'm saying. And the static IP address, IP numbers are actually relatively cheap, only a few dollars a month, something like that. So it's not like a huge expense. It makes things convenient for management of, especially with buildings that aren't occupied much, or as in supposed to buildings, because most of these buildings aren't occupied except on rare on relatively infrequently, rather than being 9 to 5 buildings. So that's all I was wondering about. My understanding was that they were all supposed to get static IP address, but apparently it's not how it's working. Although in practice they seem to have the same IP address. In fact, everybody who gets an IP address gets the same one virtually indefinitely anyway. They don't change the IP address once you've gotten one. Because my home number has the same IP address it's had since August, so effectively a static IP address.
So Robert, I'm pretty sure that we always had planned and should have a static IP at the town offices. Is
Yeah.
there, so we should already have that set up, because I think we needed it for the voice over IP system. It's my recollection.
I don't know why that would need it, but the library, what we had before was static IP address for all of the, with both Crocker and Access Plus, they gave us static IP address as a matter of course.
Just to, it's I think it's $12.95 a month to add that in. So, and we should have it at the town offices.
Yeah, the nice thing was at the library as well, because that's how I access the and update the server, the library's other computers that way. Otherwise I have to check up to the library and work on them that way every week.
Well, I think maybe putting it in the library might be an okay thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we would wait for the other buildings to see if how much of a need there really is.
Right, that not as critical, but yeah, the library has a server, and doing the server's updates, remotely is convenient. Also, it's convenient, and in the past it's been helpful when there's been problems. I can go in there and fix things that are broken. But I have to track down to do it. That's basically the use there. And with the town offices, we're probably getting a server too, probably in the next year or so, I guess. And the same kind of remote access is useful for the same set of reasons.
Does anyone else do you think $12.95 extra for the library is okay, reasonable?
That sounds okay to me.
It sounds okay to me. I don't understand the process well enough, in terms of static and not static IP addresses. But I trust you, Robbie, in terms of knowing that's what's needed in order to be able to access it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, maybe Ray's saying he doesn't know for sure that we have it at the town offices either, so. Nancy, maybe you can, when you're following up on the voice over IP, you can double check and see how easy
So
it is.
the representative from Crocker should be able to tell me if we have one and what it is if we do.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we had one under Crocker, but we don't necessarily have one under Whip City. We're not
Yeah, I
using the
guess
Crocker number
it'll
anymore.
it'd be indicated on the bill we get from Whip City. I don't know if you have those yet, Nancy. But
Yeah, so I should look on the bill from Crocker and the bill from Whip City, and one of the other of them should tell me something. I don't really know what I'm looking for, so let me look at them.
The Crocker one won't tell you anything. The Whip City one may tell you if it's a static IP address or not. I don't think it is though.
I can just call them also. If you have the bills out tomorrow when I'm in the office, Nancy, I can take a look, or I'll call them and find out.
Yeah, I can get them from the accountant's office.
Because you would see that additional charge for the static IP, that $12.95, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we don't have them up for either, everybody agrees it's okay to get them for both. I had assumed we'd already gotten it for town offices. So that's $12.95 for each building, I think, if we add them in a month.
Sounds okay to me.
All right.
Yeah. Start with those two and then we'll see from there.
Sounds good. Thanks.
So are we all set with that?
I think so.
Yep.
Okay. So I just wanted to say regarding the wood bank, I haven't heard anything from Cliff, but I did get an email today from Sean Mahoney at DCR asking for Cliff's contact information. He had read a discussion in the Montague Reporter, and he said he would be happy to share what knowledge and resources I have from helping Montague, Petersham, and Athol establish wood banks over the past 5 years.
Oh, good.
So he might be of some help to Cliff, and I gave him his contact information. So
great.
Who was it again from DCR, Nancy? What was their name?
Sean Mahoney.
Sean Mahoney.
And then I was looking at the calendar for next month. The New Salem Select Board meets on the 8th and the 22nd. And I was wondering if either of those dates would work for you to continue the discussion about the town coordinator position, if you had a preference.
Those are Mondays?
Yes.
Either one's fine with me.
Seems fine with me too.
Yeah, it looks like I can do both.
Okay, then I'll get back to you for sure when we've set that up.
Good, thanks for thinking of that.
22nd and 29th?
No, the 8th and the 22nd, they're both Mondays.
Yeah, the 22nd is better, but I could do either.
Okay, well, we can lean towards that, that's fine. That's all I have at the moment.
Is this the quickest meeting ever?
Well, we
No,
haven't done to
close.
old business
Close.
yet, but
Oh, right, old business.
the only thing I have on old business is that I am working on the crawl space. And what's happening there is that we need to get another RFP out for the installation job and then synchronize that with the ozone treatment. So I'm working on it. That's the
Right.
report.
Thank you.
And I think that's all I have.
Yes. I don't think I have anything. Trying to remember if there was speeding up on the listserv lately.
I haven't seen anything on it since the
Right.
initial concern about speed traps.
Mhm.
And we did talk about this, Laura, actually at the police meeting. And Scott was very adamant that these should not be called speed traps. This is basically safe driving training.
Good.
And people are not being given expensive tickets, and we're not out to make money on it. So I think that message got conveyed
Yeah, I think it
on the
did.
listserv, and I haven't heard anything since.
I'm curious, I'm sure you guys don't know, and I'll probably just have to call them. But if we like witness somebody doing some kind of reckless driving and get their plate number, does Leverett Police will take that information and do anything with it?
Yeah, they will.
They will?
By all means, you should report it. Yep.
All right.
And they'll probably get the same kid glove treatment that they give to the other speeders. But it's when you get a call from the police department, maybe it changes your behavior a little.
Yeah. Okay.
It has been nice to hear some positive feedback from people who haven't had interactions with the officers that have been in town.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased by that.
Yeah, the Leverett Police Department is getting a lot of favorable reaction, and they have gotten no unfavorable reaction at this point from any of the stops or any of the people that they've run into, and it's looking pretty good.
Good.
Good way to start.
Yeah. Gillian, did you have any further items? And you're right, it might be a record, 7:43. Do you want to pick a time for signing, folks, tomorrow?
How about if I do by 9 o'clock?
Sounds good. I can do 10.
All right, I'll do 11.
Sounds
Great.
good.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Nancy.
you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Good night.
Thanks,
Night.
See you
John.
later.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.